I wanted to talk about more lies, more American lies, or more lies from right wingers or the 35 percenters. But I want to start with a kind of a joke that was going on like about 10, 15 years ago. I was arguing with this guy. He was like vet, a U.S. vet, and we were both going to taking courses in a community college, and he was telling me, he was kind of making fun of me. He was telling me, Hassan, when you point to me with this finger like this, you know that you Americans are like this and that, then kindly turn your head around and look at these other three fingers that are curled and pointing right back at at you again. Like he was just saying in an offhanded way that it's just that you are the bigger criminal than me, than us, the wonderful Americans, and but this argument or this joke can play both sides, and I could say the same thing about a lot of the stuff that the American government and many Americans do that kind of points that this, hey, this is exactly your own fault or your own doing. I was looking at the video of Pence, Vice President Pence, and he was having a conference with the families of 6 U.S. oil company executives that had gone into Venezuela and had gotten arrested by the Venezuelan government. It's like the U.S. government decided that, okay, we are gonna just overthrow your government. We don't care about your president or your government that exists today and is actually a sovereign government, and we don't even care about your oil company, national oil company that belongs to Venezuela, because we already sanctioned it and we took all these unilateral decisions. And now we just buy airline tickets for 6 of our oil company executives, and we just send it over there, and they will negotiate with somebody that we designated as president for the future of your oil company, which is not really your oil company, which is us. It's like somebody make all kinds of decisions for a sovereign foreign government without telling them. It's just so militant. And not only is a militancy in terms of military and diplomatic complete disregard for sovereignty of other countries, but also militancy in the way the American corporations they act or behave towards foreigners. I mean, if you were looking for a company that or a country that is going to get targeted, then you don't have to look very far. You found your target. Well, one second. Let me turn this off. Then Pence was telling their families that we after we took all these actions, very provocative actions, we want the Venezuelan government to release all these people. And he was like, how Pence points fingers and he looks very stern and sad. And do you think that the Venezuelan government or Iranian government or the Russian government or Chinese government or all these foreign countries that have been invaded or carpet bombed, they're gonna listen to Pence and they're gonna actually release these 5 executives after they were totally provoking their government and totally making future plans without including them. Do you think this is going to happen? I don't think so. I think that what's going to happen to these 5 executives is that they're going to spend like 5 years in prison. Okay, this is what typically happens with the U.S. government agents that end up in foreign countries, and they catch up with them, and there is a long jail time, and then after about like 5 years, when there is no such government as Trump or none of these idiots that initiated all this, then the U.S. government will send in somebody secretly and quietly. They give them Venezuelans a shitload of cash and concessions, and they will basically kiss their butts to get these people released. This is what actually happens. But then that brings us to the other 3 fingers that are pointing back at the Americans and their stupid actions they take all the time. Well, there was another one that I was looking at, is that the Trump administration was designating a part of a foreign military, of a foreign government like Iranian government, IRGC, designating as a terrorist organization, which actually IRGC is the equivalent, Iran's equivalent of the Marines, which means like when they have no choice but to fight with the foreign government, extreme case, then they'll dispatch IRGC. So like it's all the actions that it takes is totally unilateral, totally without any kind of regards for the consequences or their repercussions or blowbacks. And when shit happens, they have nothing. They have no tools. They have no diplomacy. There is no one. But this idiot Pence is saying, he's looking very stern, saying, you must release our executives. And if I were the families of these people that listened to the U.S. government and went into all these foreign countries and they got in trouble, they got killed, okay, the very first thing that I wish that I would have done is that I wouldn't listen to these idiots. I would not have sent my loved ones or my kid into these conflicts that they shouldn't really exist. There shouldn't really be a Venezuelan crisis. There shouldn't really be a crisis at the border with Mexico. There shouldn't really be a crisis with Iran, with Russia, with China, with many foreign countries. Okay, these crises, they were manufactured. And so the very best advice of somebody who even slightly cares about the lives and the property of Americans, or stupid people like me who have American relatives or ties, the very best thing would be to prevent ourselves or the people to get into these conflicts that has nothing to do with us, or doesn't have anything to do with like my kid. Well, actually my kid, he asked me several times, hey, can I join the Navy? Can I be part of the U.S. military? And there were some discussions in the past. Oh, maybe I want to become like a diplomat or something. And my answer to him is that if you do so, you will lose all your income from that. All your money that's coming to you if I pass away, like all the inheritance, and you will also lose all your ties that are not militarized and weaponized with the extended family that I have all over Iran. I will terminate your ties with the huge group of people I know. They're Iranians. They're here. Okay, so at least I have a little brain. I think about these things, the consequences, and looking at the stuff that the American government has done nothing but sanction and engage in warfare, in destroying and dismantling all kinds of business relationships, cultural ties. They have gone into dismantling even sales of equipment or aircraft or agricultural products to many countries, and these actions, like those three fingers, they point back here to people like Pence, that they are the ones that they ultimately will bring on collapse of the dollar, will bring on the economic collapse, because every country in a globalized world is also tied, whether they like it or not, or whether they admit it or not, with a myriad of other countries. Well, the United States has a many ties to Mexico, and these are economic ties. There is a lot of labor that the Americans use. Either this labor is either in Mexico itself, or is at the border, or is in here legally or illegally. That these people do all this stuff, manufacturing and services. That this whole fiasco is trying to end something that is colossal, but I don't know. Then I want to also talk about some immigration laws that keeps getting issued by U.S. government. Actually, what happened in 1999, something like that, me and my ex, we got into a really nice fist fight, and well, the case is already like vacated, so there's nothing anybody can do with it. But at the time, I I got arrested and I had to serve. I tried to fight the case, and I should have gone into appeal. I lost the first round, and then my defender, public defender, told me we need to appeal this because there is a strong possibility that it will get overturned. But then I didn't listen to her because I didn't want to invest any more money and time in all this fiasco. So I did 60 days because I've beaten her up too. And then after the 60 days, the county turned me over, even though I was a U.S. national. They turned me over to the immigration services. Well, at that time, they didn't call it. They didn't call it Homeland Security. They called it INS. So anyhow, they came in and they got me. I ended up in detention for like well, it was 60 days plus 60 days of detention. But then while I was in this process, because when they grab you and you're going through the system, the service, they just, you're like in all these vans that have been locked up inside, and you're taken from one detention to another. They're all immigration detentions, and well, after a while, I was talking to the immigration officers, and they knew that I'm not like a lot of the other people that from far away, and they have to go through the legal process. And so they were asking me, hey, do you want to voluntarily leave? Because a lot of the Spanish that they grab, they they are they, they just want to be let out. They want to end up in the border and go after their business, and then they will try after like a year or two. And so what I saw, a lot of these people that were caught up in this system, and a lot of families, a lot of Spanish. Well, if you, I became familiar with the Spanish culture as I was going through all these detention facilities from van to van, and finally I ended up in San Pedro detention. But I noticed that there is like two cultures they have. One of the cultures is the Spanish that are from Mexico itself. They were born there and raised there, and they call themselves the paisano, which is and they're usually very family oriented. They have values. They're very sweet and nice. I found many friends with the paisano. Then there is the Chicanos, which are like intermediate. They were not really born in Mexico. They were like born in United States, or the citizenship was kind of flimsy, and they had gone back and forth, something like that. And they were much more difficult for INS to deport, because they had ties or family. From all of this, what I deduce is that by these stupid actions of endlessly fighting with the Spanish people, they were in a systematic way, they were destroying many families. Half the family, for example, sometimes I will see half the family, like the kid or the husband, got deported. And actually I also went through where the final deportation is, like when they take these people and they put them in the bus and they drag them to the border. So there were all these ties that were being broken very forcefully, and from all these contacts I had with either the paisanos or the Chicanos, and also the many whites that were in the jail, and also in the detention. I noticed that the whites, they're the most violent group in the jails, and also outside of the jails, because they have political connections. They have connections to the businesses, white businesses, and attorneys, and people were much more afraid of them than anybody else. It's just like in the outside world, a group of whites, 35% of the population, very organized and very forcefully came in, and with the help of Trump, annexed political power, and then also doing all these stupid things, all these very forceful immigration policies, tax policies, ways of ruling the government and dealing with other foreign countries, which are very militant, is reminiscent of World War II. And then I saw also the rest of the population, which is nothing like these guys. And I would want to do business with Mexicans, with the paisanos, with the Chicanos, with the Cubans, with the... what I want to do is not to invest any more money in these 35%, because where they're going is more weaponization of populations, more weapons in the hands of their citizens, more regional wars, more unilateral actions, and there doesn't seem to be any end to this process. Anyhow, I finally I got out and I posted by, and then my attorney went and I think we got the case vacated. So it kind of, the case lost its legs, and I fell back into my previous status as a U.S. national, and then I had to go after this. But when I was being released, and there was one of these officers, actually there was two. One of them was a black officer. He was very nice to me, and he filled out the final paperwork and called somebody to come and get me, and also got me a nice meal. And then there was another officer. He was Spanish, and he told me, Hassan, this place, you see all these people that they got out before you, and they got released. But remember, many of these people, they end up back here because they're also like you. They're married or related to a white bitch, and she does all these stupid things. And you should be mindful of that. Don't go after them. Don't participate in their charade. And this is just a very good advice for also the families of these oil executives that are going to do serious jail time. Thank you very much for being in my YouTube channel, and please subscribe and leave your comment.